Yo, what's going on, guys? Flurpledur here, and welcome back to another Skyblock Isles guide. Now, I've probably already mentioned this. I don't know which video went up first, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it again, that I'll be doing these guides twice a week, Saturday and Sunday uploads. So if you have any suggestions, leave them down in the comments below of what you want to see me go over. I plan on going over a couple of skills for guides, such as in today's video, I'll be covering the cooking skill. Now, first off, I should give you a general rundown of the cooking skill. There are different things you can see in here. There are different types of food you can make, such as the baking foods. There is fish, well, I guess seafood, meat, poultry, vegetarian, and even miscellaneous, which is mainly just juices. Now, let's start with, I guess, the simplest ones are seafood, meat, and poultry. Poultry is just, well, birds that you find around the areas, such as chickens, ducks, and seagulls. You kill them, they drop their meat. Same thing with the meat section. You can get rabbit, pork chop, beef, and a bunch of other types of food. One thing I should mention is that there are different tables you can cook at. I'm probably going to cover that more in a little bit, but just keep that in mind when you're looking at different foods. They sometimes require you go somewhere else for them. And then there's seafood, which is a little different. You actually can fish all sorts of different fish out of the water using different tools. The next one is baking, which is all way more complicated, except for bread. Bread, you just take dough. To get dough, you need flour. To get flour, you need wheat, and it's a little bit of a process. If you guys haven't done it yet, there is a quest that goes over that, so I highly recommend it. A lot of the recipes on here are a little hit and miss, because some of them are really good, like pizza, which is 2 dough, 2 tomato, 1 cheese. It is actually a super easy recipe, especially with the new stacking update, and it is actually well worth it for what you have to put into it. Whereas others are carrot cake, and I don't know if that's actually good. I mean, banana bread maybe as well, and then there's a lot of different recipes. Again, I'm going to give an example of the best foods in my opinion. Like I said, there are many different things you can use to cook things, such as the large grill, which most meats use the large grill. Some foods use the kitchen counter, such as the codfish sandwich. If you hover over a food, it'll actually tell you grill, or let's see, frying pan, cauldron, and so on, so on. Some places only have a limited amount of cooking things. Like you can see, there is no frying pan here. However, there is one in Wharfmolo. Technically 2. If I'm not mistaken, there's actually 2 unique cooking things, or 3 technically, here at the bakery. The churn is one of them, which you use to make butter and cheese. There is actually another one by the dairy cow at the barn over that way. The other one is the frying pan and the baking oven, which is what you're going to use for a lot of baking, as you can probably see right here. Everything, for the most part, in here takes the baking oven, mill, or I guess some of them don't take that. Some of them take the kitchen counter. Like I said, there's a lot of these different things. If I can try and remember them, there's like the cauldron, grill in general, frying pan, kitchen counter, baking oven, churn, and there's a few others that aren't in Wharfmolo, so you'll have to actually venture out and find them. Now, you might be wondering, how do you find them? The easiest way is if you go to your map and look at the different areas and just see what they have to offer. This one in particular doesn't list a lot of areas, but you can see that Remy's Bakery is listed here, so you can actually track that, and since it's a bakery, you can imagine it has some cooking things. The other one is Faye's Kitchen, which again, you can imagine has cooking utensils. There's actually one other unique one in town, which is the pub, which has the juicer, or I forget what it's actually called, but it's the thing you use to make juice. Other than that, the only other different cooking thing I know of is actually in Skyblock. I don't believe it's listed. It is listed. It is the smoker. So the last thing on my list, I'm going to go over a couple of these recipes and actually show you the process that you will need. The first one on my list is actually grilled cheese. I was sleeping on this one. When I was making this list, I had a bunch of different ones. I was like, okay, there's like 3 or 4 different options when starting out. No. Grilled cheese. You can get it very early on, which I'll show you in a second once I get back to the bank, and it is actually insane. It blows past almost every single food on the list. So if you're going to take a look at this list, in the vegetarian section is grilled cheese. You only need 2 ingredients. Cheese and bread. Now, I would highly recommend the process for this to just mass produce bread. Or you could even just buy the ingredients if you get a little bit lazy. You can actually farm up an inventory full of wheat and get about, I would say, 6+ stacks of flour, which is 6+ stacks of dough, which actually becomes 6+ well, I guess it'd be not 6+ stacks of bread, because it'd be like 6 stacks of 16, which would be probably a stack and a half of bread about. Now, the cheese process is also very easy. I will show you that right now. So you need some buckets. So I should probably tell you how to get the buckets. There's actually 2 different ways you can get buckets that I know of. One of which is actually on the beach. I don't remember where. I think it's either on this beach or it's on this beach here. Either way, somewhere on the beach you can find a bucket that will respawn and you can keep picking it up. But you can also craft it using iron. The other thing you can do is actually go to the general store and you can buy the buckets from him for 36 per bucket. I would recommend just buying like 16 or 17 because that's usually the max amount you will need. After you have your buckets, you need to head to the stable or wherever there is a dairy cow. This is currently the only one I know of. I know that there's another probably around Skyblock or maybe somewhere else. Once you have all your buckets of milk here, you want to make cheese. Unfortunately, though, you don't have the nettle leaf because I'm an idiot and forgot about nettle leaf. There is a specific item that you will need so you can farm up nettle leaf, which I completely overlooked that, which is the farming gloves. I'm going to cover this in a future video, but to give you a basic, I guess, just description of where you find it, it is in the nettle leaf farm. You'll find it lying on the ground, just like the bucket. Once you have it, you go towards here to the, what is this, the west, near where Morgana and Mithrandir are, and you want to farm up a bunch of these nettle leaves. Then once you have the nettle leaves and the milk, you want to head to a churn. Since I completely overlooked this step, my bad, by the way, you actually can go to good old Remy's Bakery, and there's a churn there, like we saw earlier. And you want to go ahead and just churn up the cheese. I'm making 8 cheese for my 8 future bread that will make me, well, 8 grilled cheese, but actually not really. It is 2 for the price of 1. You get 2 grilled cheeses out of every material you put into this. So what you want to do, once you have the flour, which again, I didn't go over the exact process for that, but if you don't know, you get wheat, which is over there, and then you take it to the mill, which is over there, and then you come into here, turn it into dough once it's flour. I believe you might need the bread baker quest for this, so to be fair, if you haven't done that yet, you probably should. Once you get all of your dough, you go over to the baking oven and turn it into bread. Once you have the bread, you head over to the frying pan, and the final step, you make the grilled cheese. After that's done, you will see you now have 16 grilled cheese for the 8, I guess technically 16 materials you put into it. So like I said, this is actually a really good food, and the reason why, it is level 6 cooking required for it. Hands down, super easy. And as you can see, it is better than most fish, all the way up to the codfish sandwich at level 13 cooking, but that is a lot more effort. The next one would be trout, which I actually think is an easier process, but I'll get into that in just a second. In the meat section, it is better than grilled mutton. Now, the reason I believe it's better is you get 2 for 1. On top of that, you don't have to fight anything. Aside from that, there's more stuff in baking that would probably be better, but around level 6, there's nothing that competes with that. Now, the next one is trout. I'm going to take a little bit of a lazy route for this one. You want to head east from Wharfmolo, following the trail until you reach about this bridge, and south of that is the fishing shack. Now, first off, I should mention, there's a quest there that you actually need before you can fish trout. The quest that you need is the infested apple. Now, it's a little bit of a challenge because I believe you actually need some specific skills for that. On top of that, the one bad thing about trout is you actually need fishing levels. To fish trout, you need level 18 fishing and 18 strength, and you also need the infested apple quest done. But the reason this one is so good is because the area to fish is right here. You can just fish it with your hands, so you can have a full empty inventory of 35 slots. On top of that, there's 2 good things about this. One, there's an area behind here where you can sell it to a guy, or you could also cook it up there. And if you have the small backpack, you could fill, 9 stacks of trout per trip, go store it at the bank, go back and just keep fishing it up. Now, the next 2 on the list are kind of tied. I would say it really depends on your opinion. The first one I'm going to say is pizza, because pizza, with this update, is actually very easy. So I decided to re-record over this part because when I originally did it, it was a little bit confusing and all over the place. I want to just sum it up, the process of making pizza. Now, you can get these ingredients however you want, in any order you want, and how many you want. What I normally do is I would have my farming tool, which would be the scythe, so I can get tomatoes, and then I would have 2 stacks of cheese, and I would always keep it in 2 stacks. Even if I ran out of one, I would split it, just so that it always had 2 slots taken up. It just helps with the math of all this. The next thing I do is I normally store up my flour, and I take out 1 stack at a time, and I would turn it into dough, which I would do that over at Remy's Bakery. After that, I run down south over here, and I get some tomatoes. Now, I mentioned this in the part that I recorded that was confusing. You actually need a quest, which I believe is in here, the Magic Compost quest. You need to complete this with the required skills before you can actually farm up tomatoes. But the process is fairly simple. You will need 4 stacks of flour for 2 stacks of cheese, so you will have to make a few trips making dough, go get tomatoes, make the pizza, store up the pizza, make more dough, tomatoes, back and forth like that until you run out of cheese. Pizza, very good. It gives you 6 slices each time you craft it up, which heals up 30 HP and 5 stamina. Very good if you want to make bulk food. Now, the next one is calamari, and I'm going to show you a little bit of a cheat way just again through this. You can actually fish calamari, or sorry, you can fish squid here with a spear. You may need a quest for that one. I'm not 100% sure. The other area is down here by the Wharfmolo key chest thing. However, the one up here I highly recommend because it's much more efficient. You actually have a frying pan in this house right here. You can take the calamari, fill your inventory, go here, cook it up, and just go back and forth. Calamari, and why I think it's on par, again, based off of what you find easier and what path you chose if you didn't choose a balanced one, calamari is slightly more or slightly less efficient by losing 2 HP and also no stamina. However, you only need the calamari and, of course, the cooking and fishing and all that. Now, the last one on my list is actually super efficient when you get to cooking 36, and that is apple pie. Now, looking at that list, it looks complicated, but if you break it out or break it up step by step, it is super easy. Now, I don't know if I want to actually go down a rundown of max efficiency for this, but I can give you a general list of the numbers for this. Now, with the apple pie, you need a good bit of ingredients. You need 64 pans, 64 salt, 128 flour, eggs, and sugar, and 512 apples. What that breaks down into, if I'm not mistaken, is 4 stacks of salt, 8 stacks of flour, eggs, and sugar, and 8 stacks of apples. The easiest way to go about this, that you can technically do it in any order, however, this is the one I would do. You can go down here and farm up 8 stacks of eggs. While you're there, you can clear your inventory except for the 8 stacks of eggs and go a little bit more north and get sugar, which you can go to the mill and sugar cane, get the mill, turn it into sugar. Next, you can actually get the wheat here as well, turn it into 8 stacks of flour. Your inventory will be a bit cluttered, so you'll be making a couple of trips if you do it this way, but you can knock it all in one area without making, huge trips to the bank. Now, the next one is actually the clay. You need clay to make the pans. Now, 2 inventories full, about 32, you make 64. That is 64 pans, super easy. Now, this next one, this is a probably mid to late games thing, but you could probably get it actually pretty early depending on how you grind. There's a salt mine right here as well. You need the flippers for that, which you can actually get by doing the parkour. 75 laps of the parkour over there. You need to do the quest for that. It's unfortunate. That's why this one's the last on the list, because obviously it's a bit of a grind for it. About an inventory full of salt cubes, you take it back to the mill, turn it into salt. You usually get, I think, 1 to 3, so you'll get the, 4 stacks that you need pretty easily. The last one is apples. Now, you can just go and pick about 8 stacks of apples up here, but that sounds incredibly boring. What I would recommend is there is a shop in Skyblock, the general shop. He sells 100 apples for 800 coins. By 512, you're spending about 4,096 coins. This is the perfect amount. This will fill your inventory with 2 extra slots that you will need, which you will use your backpack for. You just put the apples in there. 64. You can grab them out later. After that, you want to sell 142 apple pies. That's actually not a lot in comparison. Out of 512, you're selling 142. And you're making money back to repeat the process. Now, the reason apple pies are also so good, not only the fact that you're making 8 at a time, you are also getting 50 HP per apple pie slice and 8 stamina. Hopefully you can follow that. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. Hopefully this helped you guys with a general food guide. Again, any more questions, let me know. Leave a comment down below. Any suggestions for guides, comment them down below. I will see you guys in the next one.